Alright, so something interesting has just happened. There's like a semi-private 10-20-40 that runs at the Commerce, and I am here today, and they're going to let me play today, which is kind of cool. So I expected to be here all day playing 5-10 and maybe go to the Hustler, but I'm not allowed to film, so I'm going to have to get creative as if I'm playing a tournament. But I'll make it work. I'll let you guys sweat the action with me. But yeah, up 1700 at 5-10, going to head across now, play some 10-20-40, let's do it.
Guys and girls, welcome to part 2 of this mega poker session. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'll put the link in the description. It's probably my favorite vlog that I've ever made. We're playing 5-10 in the Commerce Casino in Los Angeles, and 3 hours into the session, I have been invited into a 10-20-40 game that I have heard is pretty damn good. Now, the players that run that game have politely asked me not to film anything, so we're going to go old school with this one. JPEG of the table, retro graphics, banging hand histories. It's as if we're playing a tournament during the WSOP. You guys are going to absolutely love this one. I'm buying in for $5,000. We're playing the Seven-Deuce game for $100 a man. If you're the last person to fold, you owe $200. Round of $100 straddles are compulsory. This is what I live for. Absolutely delighted to be allowed to play the game. Let's hope we can book a win. First hand of note comes just after a few minutes. A non-pro has raised an early position to $140. I'm in the hijack with pocket jacks and putting the re-raise to $460. He's quite a chatty fella, and he talks to me and says he doesn't know anything about me and asks if I'm action or if I'm a tight player. I truthfully tell him that this game is a little bigger than I normally get the chance to play, so even though I'm pretty good action, I might start off a little bit on the tight side. This then prompts him to put in the 4-bet to $1,200. I am 99.9% sure there's no answer I could have given him not to put in the 4-bet here. He's just got a very strong hand. I don't want to shove given the fact he's in early position and I'm in mid position, and I definitely don't want to fold, so I go ahead and call. We'll go heads up to the flop, which is ace 8-5 with 2 diamonds. My opponent c-bets for $800, and even with the backdoor flush draw, I don't peel here. I just let it go. This is the absolute classic. Play a bigger game and be stuck 4 figures immediately. Gotta love it. Still, there's no time to waste as we pick up pocket jacks again just 5 minutes later. The $100 straddle is on now, and I haven't topped up properly from the last hand, so I'm only playing a $4,500 stack, which is 45 big blinds effective. The hijack makes it $300 to go. The button puts in the re-raise to $900, and I can't find the right cold 4-bet size out of position here, so I just move all in for around $4,500 total. It falls all the way around to the button, who doesn't snap call, but after 40 seconds, he does make the call. He's got ace-queen offsuit. We're flipping here for this pot worth around $10,000. Unfortunately, he's outflopped me on the first one and manages to hold, looking to win the second one and chop it up. Off to a good start by flopping a set before I realize he's actually got a double gutter. This is a little sweaty, but thankfully able to hold and chop this one up. It would have really sucked to have lost both those runouts, especially after flopping a set on the second one. Not off to the best of starts overall here, and I don't see how it's going to get better when I'm in the big blind with 9-6 offsuit. There have been 4 limps before it gets to me, and I of course check. We go 5 ways to the flop, which is king 7-5 with 2 spades. Really happy to see this one check all the way around. The turn is a 9. Gives me second pair and a gut shot. The pro in the middle blind is going to bet out for $200. Without the gut shot, I think I would just fold this, but I decide to call with the gut shot, and I'm really not happy to see under the gun call and the button as well. We go 4 ways to the river, which is the 3 of spades. Flush completing river 4 ways. I definitely don't have the best hand here. Middle blind checks. I check. The other 2 players check. I announce my 9, and somehow I'm good. All the other players in the hand can't beat it, and my pair of 9s with no kicker somehow drags in this 4-figure pot. I have played 2 hands with pocket jacks. I'm stuck $1,200. Maybe I should just stick to playing trashy hands like 9-6 offsuit. Speaking of which, very next hand I pick up 7-deuce for the first time today. Middle position is a younger reg. He makes $120 to go. I put in the 3-bet out at the middle blind to $500, and there must be a god in heaven because he just folds without any resistance. I am full to the brim with boyish glee as I slam down my 7-deuce to win $900 for my troubles. Unfortunately for me, though, that'll be the end of the trashy hands, which are doing quite well for me. We're back to the big pocket pairs again when I pick up pocket queens 1 orbit later. The straddle is back on. Middle position raises to $300. The reg, who has just folded to my 3-bet when I had 7-deuce, puts in the 3-bet of his own to $1,000. And once again, I just can't find the right size here out of position with the straddle, so I decide to move all in for around $6,300 total. Maybe I can make it $2,500. I just don't know. I think this is fine. Action is back on the 3-better, who looks very pained indeed. It smells like pocket jacks to me, and after a minute or so, he calls it off. I asked, do you want to go once or twice? He is a run at once kind of guy. Mad respect for that. I wish I could be a run at once kind of guy. I show my pocket queens and he says, yep, you're good. The flop comes down ace, jack, 8, about as bad as can be. But he says that I'm still good. Complete brick on the turn, looking at scooping in this huge 13k pot until a fucking 10 hits the river and he turns over pocket 10s. Are you freaking kidding me? This is a nasty ass cooler, 2-outed on the river, but what can you do? I get a bit of sympathy from my table mates as I smile, reach into the backpack and pull out another $5,000. I've only got a couple more bullets in that backpack, so hopefully things don't get any worse for me and I don't have to slither away from the game. I've lost with jacks, I've lost with queens, I may as well fold these pocket kings pre-flop 30 minutes later. This is a no-limit double board bomb pot hand and these are the two flops. I am second to act and check. It checks all the way around to middle position, who takes a stab here for $300. There are 3 callers before it gets to me and I decide to just call as well. Under the gun is then going to pop it to $2,000, a very large raise indeed. Really happy to see the other players in the hand fold one after the other, and when it's back to me I look at the boards and say, well, I can't be behind here, I'm chopping at worst, so I move all in for 5k total. I get snap called. He's got pocket 9s. I'm looking for a king on the second board to scoop, but nothing changes, and we end up chopping this one up. This is a pretty cool hand, and my decision to just call on the flop instead of raising means that we get to just chop up all this dead money. Still no outright wins with a big pair for me today, though. And next up, I am on the button with king, queen offsuit. The cutoff is raised to $100, and I go ahead and call. A tilted non-pro in middle blind then puts in the raise to $300. Then a pro in the big blind decides to cold call this small squeeze. The original raiser calls, and I'm getting an amazing price here on the button, so I of course call as well. We go 4 ways to a very, very nice flop, which is king, queen, deuce with 2 hearts. It actually checks here to the cutoff, and he decides to take a stab for $600. I think raising is okay here, but I want to keep the middle blind in. He's got a lot of queen X type hands that can call, so I just flat. We'll cross the bridge of bad turn cards if we come to it. The middle blind does actually fold, but the big blind who cold called the squeeze earlier sticks around to see the turn, which is the 3 of diamonds. 2 flush draws on board now, and the cutoff continues to bet. He bets again for $1,500. If we were heads up, I would maybe consider just calling, but I want to protect my equity a little more versus 2 players, so I think for a few seconds and then move all in for $4,000 total. The big blind quickly folds, and before his cards hit the muck, the cutoffs are in there as well. He was clearly bluffing his ass off. He absolutely snap folds, and this is a very, very nice pot coming my way. It sends me only down $2,700 for the day, recovering nicely after that icky queens versus 10s hand earlier, and just 2 hands later, we're back in the mix. I am in the hijack with ace, queen of hearts. The low jack is raised to $100. I decide to 3-bet to $320. The big blind is a non-pro who cold calls, and of course the low jack calls as well. We go 3 ways to the flop, which is ace, 3, deuce, rainbow with no heart. It checks me, and I decide to sometimes check back ace queen here with no backdoor flush draw. I'd always bet all combos of ace king, but ace queen with no backdoor flush draw is an okay-ish hand to check back on this exact texture at a low frequency. We go 3 ways to the turn, which is the king of hearts, full rainbow board now, and when it checks to me, I've got a clear bet now. I decide to bet $650. Pretty mandatory bet here on the turn in position. The big blind makes the call. The other player gets out the way. We're going heads up to the river, which is another king. The big blind takes about 20 seconds and then checks it on over to me. This player is a little bit on the loose side, so he can have a lot of hands like ace 10 suited, ace jack offsuit, all those types of hands, but he can also have plenty of hands like king queen, king jack, and king 10 of the suited variety. So I decide to check back. Now, I think this is a bit of a mistake in hindsight. I don't love the way I played this hand. I think we should just go ahead and c-bet on the flop. And as played, I think we should go ahead and bet $1,600 on the river, try and get some value. Thankfully, I decide against that value bet, though, as my opponent turns over king, queen for runner trips. I really don't like the way I've played this hand, but thankfully, I've made some savings here by misplaying the river. I also managed to get another 3-bet through not long after this with Seven-Deuce. This one is a little scarier as the $100 straddle is on. The cutoff is open to $200 off of a 3k stack. I make it $700 to go, and everyone folds. I am now 2 for 2 with 7 deuces so far today. Absolutely love the 7-deuce game. I step outside very quickly for a quick chat with the camera, but as you guys know, I am in slow motion mode. I have accidentally turned my camera into slow motion for about 3 days, so there's a lot of intros and outros and mid-session updates that are just complete nonsense. Stepping back into the grind, stuck a little over 4k for the day at this point, but grinding away and trying to play it as well as I can. Next up, I pick up pocket 10s in the middle blind. Under the gun has limped in for $40. A loose non-pro makes it $200 to go in the cutoff, and I put in the 3-bet from the middle blind to $760. Under the gun gets out the way, and the cutoff makes the call. We go heads up to the flop, which is King 5-4 Rainbow. Don't love that king out there, but I still do decide to c-bet my hand here for $500. Pretty standard c-bet on this texture for me. The cutoff is not going to call. He's actually going to raise to $1,200. This is a really annoying spot here out of position. He's definitely capable of just being really loose here and screwing around and bluffing me, but I've also got so many better hands to continue with, and I'm out of position, so I just sigh and fold my hand. Now, I'm pretty sure this guy would have shown a bluff here, so when he mucks face down, I'm very happy to see it. Really happy with my fold now. Bit of a tough day so far today. Can't seem to get much going, lacking in consistency with winning pots, but the straddle is back on now, and next up I raise under the gun with ace-10 offsuit to $220. The button is a pro. He's one of the guys that puts this game together. He makes the call. We go heads up to the flop, which is 10-9-6 all spades. Top pair, top kicker, and the nut flush draw. Not a bad start here at all, but it's a pretty clear check out of position on this texture versus a pro. The button is going to check it back. Happy to see that. We go to the turn, which is a board pairing 9. Not too many hands that beat me here, so I decide to start trying to build a pot. I bet out small for $200. I have one size with my range here, so don't worry about me, giving off a tell or, playing badly or, showing weakness or anything like that. This is the size that I would choose, whether I've got a full house or king high or a nut flush, anything like that. I'm just betting $200. The button then surprisingly raises this small bet. He makes it $600 to go. Didn't expect that, and not loving life, but my hand is obviously quite strong here, so I go ahead and make the call. Hoping for some help on the river, but it's an offsuit queen. Lots of his bluffs now also beat me. Hands like king, queen, and king jack have now just improved, and when I check, he fires again for $1,500. I do just fold my hand here, but I'm a little disappointed with myself, to be honest. We've got a really, really nice candidate to check jam. We block a lot of full houses. We block the nut flush. So I wish I'd thought about this for just a little longer and moved all in for about 4k effective on the river. We'll never know if it would have gotten through or not, but it feels like a really nice combo to do it with. I'm really disappointed in myself for not going for it and shoving. To be honest, I didn't even think about it. Maybe just a bit of frustration setting in, not running the best so far today, and I just fold my hand. I'm down over 7k for the day now, but it's a big game. I'm not stressing it. And next up, the $100 straddle is back on. I am in that straddle with 6-5 of clubs. It falls round to the big blind, who raises to $360. I, of course, defend. I don't think we're deep enough to 3-bet this hand. We go heads up to the flop, which is 9-3 deuce with 2 clubs. My opponent is then going to c-bet here for $1,200. This is a 1.5x flop c-bet. We're not playing 5-10 anymore, boys and girls. I've got about $4,800 behind at this point. I think I've only got one option. I just move all in. I get absolutely snap called, which is never good when you've got 6 high. I ask if he wants to go once or twice. He's happy to go twice. He's got king 9 offsuit with the king of clubs for a pretty good top pair. Absolute ping on the first river to give me the nuts. I also make a pair on the turn on the second board. Can we find one of our many, many outs on the river? Nope, it is another 3. It would have been so nice to scoop in a 10k pot there, but then again, I did just stick in 5k with 6 high, so chopping is never a bad thing. Very fun hand indeed there. Straddle is still on for this next one. I'm on the button with king queen offsuit. Under the gun is raised to $300. The next player to act calls. It falls all the way around to me on the button, and I make the call, as do the big blind and the straddle. We go 5 ways to the flop, which is 10-9 deuce rainbow. Really surprised to see the flop check all the way around to me on the button. Stabbing here is probably fine, but with 5 players, it's a little more likely that I get check raised and have to fold, so I just check it back. To the turn, it is an offsuit 5. Nothing changes, and once again, it checks all the way around to me. We're still 5 ways here, so I decide to just check back for the same reasons on the flop. To the river, it is a beautiful jack to give me the stone cold nuts. It checks to me, and I decide to bet my hand. Of course, I bet $1,100. Really annoying to see every single player fold, apart from the last player. He then looks up at me, smiles, and says that he thinks he was good until that river. I tried to give nothing away, praying that he just calls anyway, even though he thinks that he might be beat here. After a long, long minute, my opponent calls. Let's go. I show him my nuts. Then I turn over my cards. He sighs, mucks his hand. Lovely river to put me down only $4,800 for the day now. It's been a bit of a grind so far, but I'm now starting to win a few smaller pots to go along with a couple of bigger pots. These for sure add up in a bigger game like this. Next big pot of note comes 40 minutes later when I pick up ace-king offsuit under the gun. The game is now six-handed and is about to break. I raise it on up to $120. This is going to get called by the cutoff and the button, and then an aggro reg in the big blind makes it $700 to go. Now we're about $9,000 effective here, so we for sure can't 4-bet shove this time, and I don't want to just call and go 4 ways to a flop. After a few seconds, I settle on a 4-bet size of $2,050. Not going to lie, I have no idea what I'm going to do if my opponent shoves. After about 20 seconds or so, though, my opponent just folds his hand. Kind of relieved to see that. Didn't want to play a massive pot right at the end. This pot takes me down only $3,150 for the bigger game. This is not bad considering I was down 7k on 2 separate occasions, and I've lost virtually every pot that I've played with a big pocket pair. I've had a really fun day battling with these guys. I'll hopefully be able to do it again in the future if I get invited back. Combined with the $1,600 I won at 510 in the last episode, it's actually only a small losing day in the end. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. If you've enjoyed the show, click the sub button. Thank you as ever for watching. Until next time, take it easy.